Welcome to the Shine the Way podcast. Tonight I'm joined by Shelly Hoyt, a legend in Kansas high school ladies basketball. Coach Hoyt grew up in Nebraska. She had three brothers and three sisters, went to Venango High School in Nebraska. Then she went on to Hastings College in Nebraska to play basketball. She also graduated from University of Nebraska in Kearney with a degree in elementary education and a master's degree in education from Fort Hays. She is the sponsor for the Eureka Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Her husband, Scott, is the superintendent of Eureka Schools, and she has four daughters, which she had the pleasure of coaching. Her career is outstanding. Overall, she was 639 and 173 in her time as a coach. She coached from 1990 to this season. And she won 4 state championships in a row at Hoxie. And during her time at Hoxie, Eureka, Madison, and other locations, she had multiple state runner-ups, third places, fourth places, state invitees. Just a wonderful career. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you, Jake. I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
So we're going to go back and start where it all began when you were a kid. Obviously, you went to college as a basketball player. So it speaks for itself that you played basketball. Along with basketball, what other sports did you play in Nebraska?
Everything. I came from a small school, and I played everything that was available. It was volleyball, basketball, and track. So my three older brothers just took it at me, and there was no mercy there, and they taught me how to. That I just loved sports. We were a family of sports, and that's how I grew up, just around everything.
Mm-hmm. So in a small town, probably not uncommon to where you're at now in Eureka and where I grew up in Minneapolis, it requires a lot of parent involvement usually to coach the youth sports. So during that time, did you have any particular coaches that really helped you grow a love for the game of basketball or any sport in general?
Yeah, so Venango was a lot smaller than Eureka, and a lot smaller in Minneapolis. I've been there too. But we so it was a school where the coach was the same for everything. The same coach, but I did have we had a boys coach. We used to practice with the boys because there was one year we only had 5 girls on our team, and so we practiced with the boys. And he was a coach that Jay Fila was his name, that played college basketball, and just he probably taught me a lot about the game, and um, just that competitiveness of playing against boys. And so he probably had the most impact on me as far as just coaches in general.
Did you, when you guys were in Nebraska playing, did you ever get the opportunity as a small school to play up against some of the larger schools and challenge yourself on not only you grew up playing against boys because you had to, which is a good thing, and it benefits you when you go against the girls. You learn some different techniques and toughness, how to handle some different type of players. But did you get the opportunity to play some of the larger schools with more kids?
Yeah, we did. We were probably the third smallest school in the state at that time, or in the bottom 5 for sure. And so most of the schools that we played were smaller, or were larger. But yeah, we competed well for a couple years. And the game was so different back then that it was so different. You didn't have very many. You didn't have travel ball in the summer. You just played on your own. That's how you learned. And so it was a long time ago, Jake.
Yeah. So just guessing, when you went from there to Hastings College, that had to be a little bit of an eye opener just based on the numbers. Did it take you any time to adjust to a different level of play, the different number of people that you had to compete against for a spot? How did that go?
Um, s- so I basically went to Hastings because that's where my brothers went, and it was, we didn't know any better. We didn't know any better, and we laugh about it now. And but it was a great experience. I think the coaches that I had in college and high school, like I'm not speaking, ill of anyone, but I probably learned more of what I didn't want to do than what I did want to do. And it was, and again, nothing against anyone, especially in the high school level, because they only knew what they knew at that time. And, they were probably just thrown into the situation. And there wasn't anything like there is now, resources or whatever. So, but yeah, it was obviously a huge adjustment. And my time at Hastings was cut short from an injury, and that's why I didn't graduate from there. But it was good for me, and I saw a lot of talent that you didn't see, you weren't used to, and um, it was fun to be around girls that were like-minded with sports and basketball. So I loved the experience for sure.
Yeah. So you jump into coaching in the 90s, early 90s, 1990, I believe it was. Before we get into your extensive career and the success you had, I guess let's get to the ultimate thing. Why did you coach initially, and why did you continue for so long?
Uh, so back in, I don't, it was uh, after I had left Hastings, I went to a JUCO at Mid Plains Community College in North Platte, Nebraska, and there was a coach there. I just walked into her office and I said, "Hey, can I be a manager or anything? I don't care what I have to do. Can I just be a part of this team?" And she said yes. And so she basically, over the next 2 years, made me an assistant and made practices, helped her with, you know, practice schedules, calling plays. And she was more of a volleyball coach. So basketball was her second, uh, her second favorite, I guess you could say. And but she kind of gave me a lot of uh, a lot of the reign on the team. So I loved it. I truly loved it, and I just wanted to. It just kind of set the love for me. Like just this is. I knew in junior high that's what I wanted to do, but that really set the tone for me. And so why I keep doing it. Uh, I truly love the game. I have a big passion for the game, and right from the start, I wanted to be the best coach ever. I wanted to be the best, and I studied the game a lot. Went to clinics year after year after year. Um, Watched all kinds of practices. When we were in Missouri, I'd go to K State practices. Went to UMKC practices. Uh, those guys, Brian Aguilar, uh, uh, the guys that I would just go to every practice that would let me in, and I loved it. I had a huge passion for it. I'm very competitive, and I didn't want to ever get beat. So I just tried to learn as much as I possibly could about the game, and I still do. I just sit at home and read about the game, watch the game, and I just love it.
Well, I love that story that it was your own self-drivenness that got you to that JUCO to take the take it on yourself to say, hey, I want to be a part of this team. What can I do? I'll do anything, the bare minimum. And then you took it on yourself to not just settle for whatever was given to you. You decided, no, this is what I want to do. So let's dig in and keep going. And for anybody that happens to hear that, that's a great life lesson. And I saw what your kids are doing today. So I know that trait got passed down. You've got some kids that are doing some amazing things here in Kansas, down in Oklahoma, and so kudos to you on that. Uh, So with those training programs, those going to see these practices, were you able? Did you come in with like this is the way Shelly Hoyt wants her teams to play, or did you have that already set in stone? This is how I like to play the game of basketball, and I just want to find extra techniques to teach it. Or were you at that time kind of molding yourself to determine where and how you wanted to play?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, I would say I just took a little bit of whatever I learned and just kind of made it my own. There was a guy, he recently passed away, probably the biggest name in youth basketball in Marienheim. He was a travel ball coach. He's at a Hutch. So when we moved back to Kansas, he saw my daughter JC and wanted her on his team, and he had a lot of teams, and so he just would say, "Hey, you coach this team, you whatever, coach this team." And he played fast, and so I kind of took that, and I knew I wanted to play fast, and then offensively, like I just wanted to run and gun, and then Brian Aguilar was at UMKC while we were in Missouri, and I sent my daughter to his camp and um, sit there and watched, and then I went back and went back and went back. He was a defensive genius, pressure defense. I loved it, and he taught me a lot. So putting all that together, that's what I knew I wanted to do. I today sometimes I'll watch a scout or I'll watch a team. I'll scout a team. I'm like, maybe we need to get in the half court. And I'm like, I don't even want to go there. My kids don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. Uh, let's just play our game. And so the shot clock would never affect us. Trust me.
Yeah. Well, so I think we've been conversing, and I've known you for all of about 12 to 15 minutes, and there is absolutely nothing that surprises me that you want to play fast and aggressive on offense while still digging in and making life miserable for them on the defensive end. So, and that's the way I love to play too. I like to get up in your face full court on defense. I don't like letting the point guard walk the ball up the court. Even if we're not doing a full court press, I want somebody to work them, and I've tried to tell, like I coached eighth grade this last year, my boys. I said, you guys are about to the point where just stealing it from a good point guard's over. They're not just going to give it to you; they can handle it. But you can get them once, and you can make them tired, so that way they're mentally tired in the fourth quarter when you need that crucial steal. That's when you get them, and that's the whole point of me playing fast with them. And I'm guessing, I'm curious what you say, but I always told him I want my practices for you guys to be way more difficult than the games. So that way, when you get in the game, third quarter, they're starting to grab their shorts. You're fresh. You're ready to go. So what was a practice like for you? Was it up and down, and like did you first of all do you run sprints? Because a lot of people don't run sprints anymore. I still make the kids run sprints because it takes about 30 seconds and it's a good workout.
Yeah, we do, especially in the preseason. We run we run ladders and two a days, and they have shirts that say I survived two a days because they're really hard. But we do a lot of transition drills with a ball. I always think, you know, kids aren't very smart, right? Like they don't know that you're conditioning them. Just put a ball in their hand and they don't know any different. They just think it's basketball. So we do a lot of drills with a ball in their hand, but they're running up and down the court. And so we do a lot of that. And yeah, we play the same way. I'd have the same mentality as you, Jake. It's we talk all the time that teams might play with us for a quarter and maybe even two, possibly three, but never four. And that's what we get to that fourth quarter and we're in the huddle. Everybody's going, it's fourth quarter. They can't play with us. So our philosophy is we're going to wear them down and Sometimes you have to trick them into thinking that, but um, if you work hard enough in practice, they truly believe it, and it's worked out really well for me. So um,
Yeah. So
even even kids that you even kids that I don't want to say that aren't great athletes, they can play hard. You just have to teach them. They might not have the quickest feet, the whatever, but they have a heart, and you teach them how to dig deep and play with their heart, and their legs will follow. They'll work for you, and I've been very fortunate to a lot of kids buy in to what I want them to do.
So I these last 2 years I coached my son and his buddies in middle school, and it's a special group. And the A team specifically, I think in the 2 years they went 27-0, and because of our work in practice and our the way we were in shape and the way we wore people out, they never trailed 1 second in the second half because of it. And so, and again, it's middle school, so it's different, but that concept works. And I know you have to adjust a little bit to the high school. And you, what size school is Eureka?
2A.
2A, and then in Hoxie, where you spent a lot of time, that's 1A, if I remember right.
It actually started out when we first got there at 3A, and then dropped to 2A, and then 1A.
So your point about even, and again, not the most athletic kid, not trying to downgrade anybody, but there's levels of athleticism. We all know that. Uh, you probably really had to have them buy in because your numbers just aren't what the 4, 5, and 6A schools get. So every year you may now I don't think you ever got to a point where you were like when you were in school you only had five. That'd be a little different, but the numbers are different at the smaller classifications in Kansas, and so if you get two that don't buy in, it could be a struggle.
Yeah, for sure. And you don't always have, I would say, 100% buy-in, but if you can get your core kids to buy in and ignore those that don't, or they're going to try and pull them along, but for the most part, kids want to play fast because they that's the way you play pickup, right? You just go out there and you run and go back and forth, and so I think for the most part they want to play fast, and um, I think just showing them how to be competitive and being competitive in everything that you do, that carries over to that. And I did have a team 1 year in Hoxie where it was my daughter JC. She had 9 on their team, 9 kids, and at that time we were 3A school, so that was crazy.
Hmm.
But there's just years where you have a lot of kids walking the hall, but not a lot of kids that want to work that hard walking the halls. So um, it can be a challenge, but uh, I think for the most part you find kids that just I always tell my husband, like, if you lower the bar, you lose your winners. And if you raise the bar, then you're going to lose those that aren't that interested. And so I'm not going to lower my standard. Let's try to get the kids to rise to that standard. And those that do get a lot out of it.
Yeah, and so there's a couple of things that came from what you just said. One, the number of girls playing basketball in general seems to be down due to softball, volleyball, and it's not those sports' fault. The girls are just gravitating towards those right now. I know. So my kids go to DeSoto High School, which is 5A here in the UKC, and I believe about half the league only had enough for maybe two teams, or just enough to get a third where maybe they have to play some girls from JV down on that C team, freshman team, and like kind of mix and match some varsity players. It wasn't a clear cut, your varsity, your JV, your freshman. We got to kind of match so we can get everybody here. And the middle school I coach at, I think both seventh and eighth grade each had 12 girls. And so they had to do the same thing for A and B. There was one school that's got in the district that the middle school's got 700, 800 kids. And they only had 7 or 8 try out for their seventh grade basketball team.
Wow.
It's crazy. Is that something that you're seeing out in Western Kansas, in the smaller classifications, and in the areas, maybe the ones, the twos, and the three A's, are they struggling as well, or are they still being able to put together pretty good teams? Because most small town Kansas kids, and Nebraska was the same way. If I don't play all sports, we don't have all sports. So there's really not a choice. You got to do it.
Yeah, I don't think kids really, I don't think parents encourage that anymore. Um, I think it's sad right now. Like with, if it gets a little hard, they want to quit, and they don't think they can do hard. Um, and parents back that, unfortunately, instead of letting them get through it. You know, I just had a conversation with my junior high kids today about that. I was like, you know, you're going to want to quit track. You're going to want to quit, but don't. You can get through hard. It's going to be hard. Get through that. And when you get past the hard, that's where you see success. On the other side of that hard is where success happens. And just had that conversation with a class of middle school kids. But um, you know, I think it's true with, unfortunately, when I first came to Eureka, you know, it was a 3A school and we had 30 kids out, but we changed the culture, and there's a lot of kids that just didn't want to work, and they didn't want, they, that's, to me, that's what it was. Like they couldn't handle, you know, we play a lot of, we play a lot in the summer. We work a lot in the summer. We have a lot of practices in the summer. I don't really like to play a lot of games as much as I like to practice, but they didn't want to do that. They didn't want to commit. And I'm okay with that, right? Like I'm okay with it. And I would always tell them that I I'm okay with you not wanting to play in the summer. But you have to be okay with what you get out of the winter, because a winter will always ask, what did you do all summer? And so, you know, and then they would be okay with it, or they thought they were okay with it, and the parents would certainly be okay with it. And then sure enough, winter comes around and they're not okay with it. So then you know, 2 weeks go by and you start playing games, and it little by little they see that the playing time isn't equal. The classification, I could care less about what class you're in, what grade you're in. I always tell them my program has no class. If you're a freshman, you're good enough, you're going to play. So they start seeing all that. And then it was like, oh, fine, I'm just going to quit. And so, you know, we all have to make sacrifices for whatever we want to do. Uh, and I'm not, I know that I tell them this all the time. Like, I understand that basketball is not everyone's passion. I get that. But if you're going to do something, I don't understand why you don't do it right. Why you don't want to be the best at your best. So, um, you know, I've lost numbers, but uh, we have. Uh, I've been here 9 years. This is my ninth year. We've won TVL all 9 years. Up until last year, we hadn't been beat on our home court. We've been beat on our home court 2 times. Uh, they've Eureka had never been to state. They hadn't won league for, I don't know, those kids weren't even born yet. And you know, they've been to state 4 times. They've never got any hardware at state. They got hardware this year. So um, just changing the culture, and it's hard to do, and you lose support sometimes, but then it always comes back around, you know, because success breeds success, and it comes around. So um, yeah, I think a lot of it is just getting kids to understand how to handle success, but how to understand failure more importantly.
I can tell you, I can feel the passion coming through, and I'd be ready to go. Like I'd be ready to lace them up and let's go. I love it. And how did you go about deciding? And were you always this way as a coach, or did you have to kind of work your way into the fact that, hey, I'm going to hold my standard? I know that it's probably going to make some people think I'm not, like they don't like me. That I'm mean to the kids because I'm essentially running some kids off, even though you're not. You're giving them, here's what you got to do, and if you can't do it, then so be it. But this is our standard, and if I don't hold you to that standard, all it's going to do is set you up for life. You're going to go to a job. Your boss is going to say, "Hey, I need you to do this, 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 and this." And you're like, "I don't want to do those three. Can I just do this one?" Well, that's not the way the world works.
Exactly.
So, over your career, was it always were you always able to hold that standard, or did you kind of have to grow into it with the fact that, hey, I know what I'm doing. If we do it this way, we're going to have success. Our kids are going to be successful kids. They're going to turn into successful adults. Life's going to be good for them. So I guess day one, were you that way, or did you work into it?
Yeah, I think honestly, from day one, I'm, yes, because of my competitiveness. Um, I've been competitive my whole life. My family is so competitive. Like our holidays are like there's a fight all the time, right? Like because we're playing games. But I think over the years, I I have changed. I went from a what they would call now a transaction coach to a transformational coach, and my faith changed me in that way. But we still are called to be our very best, right? Like the Bible talks about that. We are called to be our best. You are called to run your race the best of your ability. And so that has never changed. My how I go about it has changed, but it's always the standard has always been the standard, and it's just now that I go about it is a different way, and I think you're exactly right, Jake. Like that's life. Like life is not going to be easy on you,
Mm-hmm.
and we are told that we're going to have trouble in this life, right? So we have to be able to handle that the best that we possibly can. And I think as an educator and a coach, we owe it to these kids. Like it frustrates me. Like, how can you not hold them to a high standard? I mean, their parents aren't going to be. I'm not putting parents down because I know any program needs parent support. I know that. I've been in some that haven't, and I've been in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of them that have, and I know the most successful programs are have parent buy-in, but their parents love them. Sometimes they're not going to be truthful to them. They're not going to tell them the truth. There's going to be some teachers that aren't going to be tell them the truth. But I always tell them, I'm going to be your truth teller. I'm going to tell you when you're not doing things correctly because if I don't, you're not going to be your best. And I owe it to you. I owe it to my students to make them work hard every day, and I owe it to my players. And you're absolutely right. They need all of that in life and every job they take. And the number of my former players, like they don't understand it now, these kids right now, right? My high school kids. But I know so many of my former players are, Coach, I got this job. I remembered I can do hard, or they'll tell me what they're doing, and they just my granddaughter just recently became a state highway patrol, and she said, I got that job because I got through your basketball program. And it's stories like that from former players. She was my most recent, but that you're just like, okay, I'm doing it right. I'm doing it right.
Yeah,
And
that that
so
that's awesome story, and I love hearing that. And that's one of the things I like to talk to coaches and just people in general about is when they impact lives and those lives turn around and it ultimately impact them based on what they learned 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 15
mhm.
years ago. On the hard thing, I actually just had a conversation. I got a sixth grade daughter. I got two boys and a daughter, and I had the conversation with her the other day, and I told her, I said, you were made in God's image, and He made you this way. So I don't ever want you shrinking for anybody. You don't
Yeah.
shrink for anybody. You are you, and if they don't like you, that's not your problem. That's their problem. God made you who you are, and she she's spunky, and that's what we were talking about. Is like she did something, and she's a little fiery, and I said, hey, there's a way to go about it. I said I don't want you to lose that ever,
Mhm.
especially as a young lady and a female in this world. I want you to have fire, and I want you to stand on your principles and not back down. But there is a way to go about it. So it was kind of a two pronged thing, but I love what you're hearing or you're saying, and so one of the things I like to talk with coaches about is the current climax or climate in the basketball. Right, it's a lot of five out, a lot of try to get five people that can handle the ball, shoot the ball, do everything. Whereas I'm guessing the way the game was played, even though you like to play fast and you were playing fast and aggressive early, has it changed the makeup of, like, if I asked you, say, 20 years ago, what is Shelly Hoyt's preferred rotation of five? Like, you want a big that can drop down to the post and post up and get 15 and 10, or do you want five? So I guess what would be your preferred rotation right now? If you had five girls that could do certain things, what would you want?
Well, I would take 5 good guards over posts any day. But, I think you kinda go with what you have. Um, you know, while many years ago, I had a great post and Nicole Foster, played down at, uh, uh, UTEP, and, uh, you we got the ball into Nicole. Like, that was the game plan. You pass it until she gets open, and then you get her the ball. You don't get very many players like that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you just go with what you have. And I think for this year, we had a couple packages. We had our big package to where we used a post, and we had a small package where we went 5 out and we just let our guards go. And so I think uh, just adapting to the your matchups, because it's all about matchups, and just adapting to whatever, playing that chess game. And you got your this group in, I'm going to put this group in, and uh, whatever it takes to overcome what the opponent puts in there. So, I think it's I think you just have to be, just kind of see what you're playing against, and you can't just say one thing. I'm not gonna play with two posts, or I'm not gonna play with, we don't call them posts, we just call them forwards, but everybody's a forward or a guard. You're, we're just gonna, this is what we have, this is what we're gonna go with, this is what they're doing, this is why we're changing. And I think just getting kids to understand why. Like, I don't think we didn't start the same lineup. I'm not big on this is my 5 starters for life for the season. Um, and we just went with our opponent. They have a big that I don't feel like we can, you know, com- we can handle with our guards, even though a lot of them we could just with speed. But so we would go with a bigger forward. If they had a couple forwards that we didn't think we could handle, we would go with two forwards, and go with 3 out, 2 in type deal. So it just kind of depended on our opponent.
Yeah. Well, I, being a small person, I'm a big fan of guard play. If you do have that big that, like you talked about, that young lady that I think you said went to UTEP, like, you'll always take somebody like that.
Oh yeah.
I don't care. I don't care what style you like to play. You will take a person like that. But
Yeah.
I do like kids that can get up and down, and multiple kids that can handle it, shoot it a little bit. Um, did you guys use a shot clock this year?
We did not. We went with Keisha. We were like, hey, when they're not using it in postseason, so we're not using it. But a lot of teams that we played did, and I think there was one time where it affected us, and I think it was just because our kids weren't used to it. But yeah, it was we saw it a lot in other places, but we didn't use it.
Well, I was just kind of curious because you mentioned you're an aggressive defender, and I thought that's where it would come into play more so. Most teams are trying to play fast offensively, but I think it. I know I would have loved, as a guy that was more of a defensive player growing up, if I knew for 35 seconds we lock in, limit them to one shot potentially, grab that rebound, and then we don't have to do it again. I remember some of those possessions that felt like they went for 50, 60,
Yeah.
65, 70 seconds. And it's just like, coach, they got a layup because I can't defend that long. Like it's impossible. So I just was curious if you and the mentality you bring on defensive, if that played into helping you or or not.
Oh, absolutely. I would have loved to have it this year, especially with our team. We've been running lock left defense for probably 4 years now, 3 or 4 years now, and our kids, they got it now. They got it. And I would have loved to have had the shot clock. We do it. We will throw in a press as well, and so between our press and we still use luck left principles, uh, I would have loved it. And I think it, I think that was our strength this year was our defense, although we could score a lot of points, but your best defense turns into your best offense. So we got a lot of run outs but yeah, for sure, the defensive side, you're rewarded, right? You're rewarded for your good defense. And um, I agree. Like there's just some kids that I always tell them, like, for 8 seconds, you got to play so hard on offense on the ball, and then whether they're dribbling or holding it, you 8 seconds, 8 seconds, just play hard, and let the your weak side help you. But um, I think it would have really benefited our team this year.
Playing fast on offense, did you have any rules as far as you either get to the rim or you're shooting a three? The mid range is no longer. Were you a mid range gone type of person, or did you still allow the mid range for? Because I actually just talked to Coach Rocky Lamar, and he made a comment, having coached boys for years, but then having coached girls at Bethel for the last couple of years, that girls are really good mid range shooters. Like, not that boys aren't, but boys think they're just so athletic that they are either going to get all the way to the rim or they're going to just shoot the 35 footer. Whereas girls understand that their probability of making some of those crazy shots where they spin it around like the guys do is not good. But that 10 to 15 footer, I can hit that at probably 65%. So did you allow that, or were you a rim three person?
Well, I guess our kids think they're athletic because they were the same way. They either wanted to get to the rim or shoot the three. But we have an all-state player. Well, she'll graduate this year in Brenna Rucker. That she's a heck of she's a three-layer player. She can get to the rim. She can pull up. She can shoot the three. So uh, I think she helped the girls understand that, because it was either a three or a layup. And but she kind of helped them understand that, hey, you can get a little closer and pull up if you're open, or if you're open, just take what they give you. And there's times when we would have to start our corners in. They our baseline people weren't. We get them to the money spot, we call it. And if we call them locks, if they're not the the best shooters, then just step in where you can shoot. We'll get you the ball and shoot the ball. But I don't know that I would call it a jumper, but it was mid range.
That's
But yeah, Brenna Rucker, I'll tell you what, she's a heck of a pull up jumper. Had a heck of a pull up jumper. So yeah, I mean, yeah, you always want to allow whatever you can get. But we were a pretty decent 3-point shooting team too. We would shoot anywhere from 30 to 35 threes a game.
wow.
And yeah,
That's wonderful.
yeah.
That's wonderful.
And
I
I didn't
like.
want to live or die by it. And there was a game we died by it, but um, and that's my fault, because that's where you have to say, Let's get something else," and we didn't soon enough, and it cost us. But um, for the most part, they had the green light.
Yeah, I like that, and I like giving kids confidence enough to shoot. Obviously, you need to help them understand what is a good shot for them, because not
Absolutely.
everybody's a three level scorer. I mean, you're pretty fortunate to have one of those. Those are getting rarer and rarer these days. It seems like, to actually have somebody that can do all three. Uh, One of my last questions before we get to my quick hitters is, so you have lived in the playoffs, sub-state championships, in the state tournament. So this is kind of a two-part question, I guess, for you. One, how do you, being somebody that's uber competitive, how do you handle yourself internally, maybe getting to the state championship or a sub-state championship and losing that game? And then how do you help your girls handle that?
So, I think honestly, getting them to understand that they need to trust the process. We remind them often, why did you start playing this game? Because for fun, right? Everybody starts for fun. It's a fun game. Playground, wherever you start. And then once it's fun, they keep playing, then they get pretty good, right? Then they feel good about themselves, and then they just keep working, get to better, get better. Well, then you get into a tight game, and all of a sudden that goes away. No, no, you got to trust the process, right? You got to trust your work. Even when out at Hoxie, we were on it ended at 107 consecutive wins. Everybody wanted to make a big deal out of that, especially when we broke Little River's record, and I think 95 or 97, something like that. I can't remember what they were at, but it was. We never talked about it. We never ever talked about it. We celebrated it, but we didn't talk about it. And then when we celebrated, it was like, okay, that's over. That's not what we're here for. We're here to get better every single game, 1% better. And so the same thing with state and the playoffs. It's like, just trust the process. This year was a huge challenge. We were undefeated, 1 week to go. We had a home game that was our seniors' last home game, and then a TVL game that was for the title on the line. We were either going to be co-champs or champions outright. And we lost both of those games. We should not have lost either one of them. But I think what 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 we talked a lot about was, our theme was to leave a legacy, and these kids did. They did all kinds of things. But we were rooted in Romans 8:28. And in all things, God works for good. All things for those who believe. And so when we got beat, our first loss against Olpe, and they played very well, but we praised him. We praised him. And they are all crying, and we lost on our home court, lost on senior night, whatever. But and I wasn't very happy either. But that's not why we're here, right? Like no, we got to pick ourselves back up. We're gonna praise him if we're gonna praise him on the mountain, we're gonna praise him in the valley. And then we go and we lose again. And it was like, okay, so at this point I'm like, okay, it's things don't change. They're not gonna change. But I didn't want them to lose confidence, and I could see that they were kind of losing confidence in themselves, and it's like, so then you just remind them that's not where your confidence comes from anyway, right? Like we call it Godfidence, and it doesn't come from yourself, because yourself tells you all kinds of bad things, right? So you got to talk to yourself instead of listen, and remember truth, and so we just kept reminding them to trust the process, trust our work, and Jake, this. Even though sometimes you work so hard, and we had 8 kids this year that just bought in. Those kids were in the gym every single night. They poured their heart and soul into our program. But sometimes even you'll have kids do that and it doesn't work out, right? Like it doesn't work out, and then you're like, wait a minute. So you have to convince them that that's not what it's about anyway. Because when you go get that job or whatever, you know that you can get through hard, whether it's you get the job or not, right? And remember, we said in all things. So I'm just really grateful that it did work out for them. And we competed very well at state. We competed extremely well. and had a shot at the buzzer to get into the finals. Um, and when you saw the teams there, I didn't really think that we had much. We really probably shouldn't have. Should have been there, but we probably shouldn't have done as well as we did. And it was just the kids just truly believing in each other and the love that they had for each other, and our culture. Our culture won. Our culture won that week.
Giving yourself a chance with a shot at the buzzer, that's all you can ask for in the state tournament, right?
Yep.
You make it, you win. I mean, it's kind of like the kid the other night for UConn, right? All they
Yep.
wanted was a shot. No one knew whether he'd make a 40-footer or not, but if you told them, hey, it comes down to you making this, that they would take that every time, because that's all you want as a basketball player, as a competitor, is give me a chance.
Yep. Absolutely.
And you've kind of you pretty much answered this, but the last thing I wanted to leave with was your run at Hoxie. I mean, that was pretty stinking cool, uh, and what you guys did. And you guys were really dominant through that time. And it sounds like, regardless of that, every day you showed up and worked. The next day you showed up and worked. We won again. We showed up and worked, and it didn't change you as a coach, and it didn't feel. Obviously, I'm not there, but it sounds like it did not change the girls of your program either. That they every day they understood that, yeah, we just won yesterday, and it's number 77 or whatever. That doesn't mean number 78 is guaranteed. We got to put in the work, and then we got to put in the work again, and that's just a testament to what you said for these young ladies here at Eureka, and you know, you're all things through the quote through Christ, and it's just impressive that you were able to do that and get them to buy in.
Well, thank you. And again, it's you have to have parent support. You have to have your own family support, and because it takes a lot of time and a lot of sacrifice. And um but my family knows that. They're just as invested as I am. I had all four of my girls and my husband on the bottom row in Emporia, just you know, cheering and coaching just as hard as I was. And my son-in-law is my assistant coach, and it's just a family thing, and it's so fun. And I know that it's nothing that I did, it's what God did through me. And I think our players truly believe that too. And uh, we had that when we were on that run at Hoxie. We had a group of parents that were just unbelievable, that just let me coach their kids. They didn't interfere. And these parents are that way now. And so it takes, it's not me. It's it's people all around you, in your circle. So I'm very grateful, very grateful.
I wanted to ask you this, and it slipped my mind, and it's bounced back and forth a couple times, but you coached all four of your daughters. Were you harder on them than the others?
I hate to tell you I was, because I wished I would have just not been. I think when it came to my last one with Taryn, I wasn't. I tried not to be, because, but I always told him, like, you have to leave no doubt that you belong out there. And, and so I was harder on him, but also I saw a lot of talent in them. And so when you see that, then, and you, a lot of times, I do this with all of my, every player I coach, I'll ask them like three questions before the season. And one of them is, why do you play? Why are you going out for basketball? So if they say, I want to get a college scholarship, or someone will say, I want to be a part of a team. Okay, then you just told me how to coach you, right? If you're here for your teammates and to socialize, I love it. Have so much fun, because it's so fun to be a part of a team. But if you're telling me you want to play college basketball, then I know what a college basketball player looks like, and that's what I'm going to expect of you. And if you lower that, if you don't want to work that hard, I'm going to remind you. I knew that they all wanted to play, so that was easy for me to remind them every day. And so I was harder on them, but it worked out. So we'll just leave it at that.
That's good because I've coached both of my boys, and I'm going to jump into the world of coaching my daughter for the next 2 years in seventh and eighth grade. And there are moments I was harder on my oldest. I learned from that that my buddy and we coached our boys together, and we watched some guys coaching their kids, and we're like, that was us. Ooh, that's not a good look.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so we've learned,
We
experience.
learned.
Experience is a good teacher.
Yes.
Unfortunately, for the older ones, sometimes they have to go through some rough moments with mom and dad coaches. But all right, let's get to our quick hitters. And so I'm just going to preface this. This first question is the worst question I ask anybody. And for someone that's coached as much as you have, it's going to be a really difficult question. So we'll see how you work your way out of it, like most coaches do. But give me your team of 8 from the all-time Shelly Hoyt coach players. And
Yeah. So I barely got out of track practice and checked my email, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I kind of glanced through this. I'm like, what? Um, and I started counting. You put me on the spot, Jay, because I coached 4 of my daughters and 3 of my granddaughters.
yeah,
So that's, if I say,
that's team A.
but
We're going to say that's team A. That's your one team. Let's go non-family.
okay, well, yeah, my daughter JC has to be at the top of that list.
Oh,
She
yeah,
was the best player I've ever coached.
she's
Um,
pretty good.
but I had some really good players. I coached a kid, Daphne Mawson, out of Archie, Missouri. Coached Nicole Foster out of Utica. Carly Heim at Hoxie. Uh, even there were several. Christina Farber. They were just unbelievable. Danelle Stidham. Uh, um let's see. Brenna Rucker from here. My granddaughter Chasney. Like uh, you know, obviously Taryn and Karina. Tav. They just. I have a lot of them, but I don't know that I could go 8 without thinking about it hard. And but I've been blessed, I'll tell you, to have some really solid players.
Yeah,
And
no,
it's
I mean you've coached. You got 600 plus wins, so you've done some right things, and even the ones that maybe aren't the best basketball players, there are girls that I guarantee you could probably put a good team together of girls that impacted your programs at the various stops you've had. That
for sure.
maybe they averaged 2 points a game, but they did what you needed in moments or in practice. They pushed like whoever had to guard your daughter. I feel sorry for them because JC, she was a problem, and so whoever had to try to guard her probably became a really good defensive player even at some point because you're guarding the best player in the area. So
Right. And I love it that you're coaching your daughter, by the way. The run that we had at Hoxie, uh, I started coaching that group when my youngest daughter Taryn was in 2nd grade. So I had 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade girls. I coached them all through high school. So this in Minneapolis, they probably played 6th grade ball in middle school. So did we in Hoxie. So those kids, like my daughter Taryn, Carly Heim, Lexi Shamaker, they never lost the game from 6th grade to their senior year. Never. We went, and I coached junior high too. I coached junior high and high school. And then my daughter Taryn only lost, once in high school. And so that was so when you tell me you're coaching your daughter, I'm like, I love it. I love it. Like, you just keep coaching her. And I think our girls are pretty darn special people that we need to,
oh yeah,
make sure that they know that they don't have to back down from anyone. And I want strong women. That was my goal. But when you coach them that long, they all have to. That whole team has to be my favorite because I coached them from 2nd grade to see through their senior year. But
I mean
they were pretty talented.
that's just an unbelievable run. Like I knew of the high school run. I didn't realize it started even years before. That's really impressive. So now I got to go tell my son, who just finished 2 years of middle school undefeated, that he's got 4 more years that he better
Yep.
lose a game. That's just how it works.
Absolutely.
So let's flip it. You've obviously coached against some really good players in your time. Just any of those that pop off the chart that you can remember that you had to game plan. Like, okay, I'm not really sure how we're going to guard this young lady, but we're going to give it our best shot.
Well, the top one was Jackie Stiles.
Yeah, that how you do that.
Yeah, that was it was a good game though for a half. We were ahead at halftime. She had three fouls at halftime, but she averaged 48 points that year, and at halftime she had 13 and three fouls, and by the end of the game she had 48 points, and they kicked our butt by 10, 12 points. But she has to be the top of the list. I also coached against Weskin, and they were really good with Wendy Okeson, uh, Pamela Welsh, the just loaded. That was some good kids. I was trying to think of Catherine Flood out of Opie, a couple kids out of Opie. When JC was in high school, we were at the uh, 3A and then 2A state tournament, and there were probably six kids in that division alone that were Division 1 players that went on to play Division 1. I didn't coach against them all because we didn't obviously, play them all, but you talk about loaded. That was a loaded field of players. So, Shaylee Lenning, Monica Adcock, like those kids were just they played at the next level, and it was fun. It was you had to be on your game, and you were gonna you had to you had to be on it because you were gonna get out coached if you didn't. And so there were some good teams, some good players, some great coaches. So,
That's awesome. And we didn't, obviously get a chance to really talk about this. But is there any particular college that you follow, men or women's basketball?
well, I got to go with the Cowgirls of Oklahoma State, right?
I kind of figured that might be where we're at.
But
Uh,
we're huge Husker fans.
that's what I
You grew up in Nebraska, and that's just what you are. So I was disappointed in the men the other night. They didn't give it their best. They didn't have their best effort, or their best night. They gave
Well,
it their best effort.
for a period of the
But
game, they only had four players, so they didn't even have the right numbers. I mean,
yeah, exactly. That was
in
kind of
case
like
they're,
what. But yeah, we
that,
and I'm more of a besides Nebraska and the Cowgirls, I tend to follow coaches. I root for the coaches that I've learned a lot from, listened to, spoke with, and I've just had been so blessed to have met so many of them and learned from so many of them. So, you know, Chris Daly is a good friend of mine. She's uh, Gino Ariema's assistant. I love uh, it. Just so many of from Bill Self, he's helped me. Just so many coaches. I tend to follow the coaches more than teams.
when you, as a coach for so long, when you watch a game, and I mean, your daughter's coaching at a high level, so do you watch that game and critique, or do you watch that game and enjoy?
We talk after every game, whether it's my
Yeah.
game or her game.
Well, so say you were watching Bill Self and the Jayhawks versus Nebraska. Say the Nebraska and the Jayhawks, the men's program. Are you just watching it and enjoying it, or are you trying to pick things up that you're like, hey, that was a pretty good out of bounds play, or are you able to turn it off and just sit there and relax and enjoy it?
Um, yeah, I think a little of both. Just as that as a coach, like you'll just watch a game and oh, I kind of like that. I kind of like what they did there, and so I think a little of both. Not very many times do I just sit and watch a game and just for the enjoyment of watching it. I try to learn, and I love it when they have commentators that I respect and I know that know the game. Um, I watch a lot of games where certain people commentate. I love that. I watch a lot of press conferences, just to learn from these. There's a lot of good coaches out there.
Yeah. So
So
you're looking for the games. Charles Barkley's commentating.
yeah, yeah,
He lays it out
I
there.
love it.
I love it. Uh, all right. So a couple more here. In your prime, in your husband's prime, and I don't even know if he's a basketball player, but in your guys' prime, in your daughter's prime, who's the best shooter?
Oh, it's got to be of all of them.
Yep, of your daughters, you and your husband, and you're all in your prime.
Uh, my daughter Karina was pretty darn good. She was a sharpshooter. JC will probably not agree if she listens to this, nor will Taryn, because they were pretty darn good. But
So,
Karina was so smooth. She
yeah.
was smooth.
So just shooting, she would win that. What if you're playing a game of pig? Because that's a little
Um,
different.
I'm gonna go with Karina.
Okay.
Yeah,
What about today? Who wins?
probably Taryn.
Yeah. And the
I
last
can't get
one.
it past. I can't shoot a three anymore. So
And the
they'll
last
get
one,
behind the arc.
because you've expressed how competitive a family you are. So you're playing a game of cards. Who's the first one to throw the cards and get mad?
Uh, JC or myself.
Yeah. Okay. I had a feeling you, and the fact that she's worked herself into the head job at Oklahoma State shows that she's got that competitive fire too. I've seen her on the sidelines. She's got a
Yeah,
little fire to her. So I had a feeling it might be.
we're probably throwing them at each other.
Well, Coach, I thank you for jumping on here, especially for somebody you didn't even know. You got a random message from Coach Shoemaker and jumped on and were willing to do this. I followed your career, obviously, being a Kansas person and the success you've had, and it's been amazing to watch what you have done at the various stops you've been. So kudos to you on your career, and thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
on.
Well, Jake, I really appreciate it, and it made me hop on and listen to a lot of episodes. And I love what you're doing, and I love how you're helping coaches like get content out there for other people. Um, so I appreciate you and what you're doing. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you.